Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be having a little bit of a look at a brand new Pokemon GX. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's Venemoth GX. Bearing in mind we are looking at Night Unison now, this is a Kanto themed set. Gonna be honest, did not expect a Venemoth GX. But it's actually really quite good. Now, our translation here does come from the lovely David Hochmann over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. And to start off, it's got 200 HP, which is about what we would expect from a Stage 1 GX. It's right in line with something like Lycanroc. It's got a retreat cost of 1, which is nice and low. It opens up shenanigans with a skateboard if you're playing that. So that's all well and good. Weakness to fire actually really sucks because of Blacephalon. Blacephalon is a crazy good card, and now Blacephalon only needs to discard 2 fire energy on the field to do 200 damage and get a 1-hit KO on your Venemoth GX, which it's not ideal if we're totally honest. But you are a grass Pokemon, that means you are hitting weakness on a couple of Pokemon, like in fact the previously mentioned Lycanroc, which is still seeing a lot of play. And it means that if you want healing, you've got stuff like Life Forest Prism Star and the Shaman from Lost Thunder, so it could be worse. But as always, it's really the attacks we're worried about here. And the first one's very nice indeed. It's got the brilliant name Secret Ninja Teaching, and it does 110 damage, but there are some caveats. If you played Koga's Trap during this turn, it does 90 more damage, that's 200. If you play Janine during this turn, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon from basic Pokemon. We will have a quick look at those supporters in a minute, though they are going to get their own videos in due course. But both of these are really, really nice effects. So what we see here is if you play Koga's Trap, you do 200 damage. 200 damage is good. That's a straight KO on Blacephalon, on Buzzwole for instance. And then if you add a Choice Band, you're up to 230. Now that won't get everything, but it will get Gardevoir and everything below. There's still going to be a few Pokemon that are out of reach. 230, and it's weird saying this, is not that much nowadays. There are plenty of Pokemon you'll miss. I mean, something like a Latios and Latias Prism Star, Latias and Latios to get them the right way round, has 250, so you're not quite getting the KO there, but yeah, could be worse. And that's especially true when we look at what Koga's Trap actually does. It is a supporter card that leaves your opponent's active Pokemon poisoned and confused. Now, this is incredibly relevant here, because like I've said, 230 with a Choice Band is not always quite as much as you'd like to do. But once you bring in Poison here, you're up to 240. Well, that's a 1-hit KO on a couple of the Tag Team GXs, your Mimikyu and Gengar, and your Pikachu and Zekrom. But this can add up. Because you see, it's 240 with 1 turn of poison, and you can have multiple turns of poison, or you can have Seviper. So with a Seviper on the bench, all of a sudden you're not doing 230, you're doing 240 with poison, but Seviper comes in and says you're doing 250. There's your Latios and Latios, there's your Metagross GX for instance, and now this is adding up quite nicely. As for the confusion, yes, they can get out of the confusion. They can play an Ace Roller, or they can play a Guzma, or something along those lines to get out of the confusion, and if they do, they do. But remember, just because you picked up a Pokemon with Ace Roller, fine, you're no longer confused. Do you have another Pokemon to attack with? Are you ready to go, or are you just stopping a KO and not doing very much? It could very well be the latter. And if they attack with Confusion and Flipper Tails, there's 3 damage counters right there. So all of a sudden, that 230 becomes 260, although it is 270 with the poison, and then even an Eevee and Snorlax Tag Team GX is going down. What I really like about this attack is that it does enough damage for most Pokemon, though not all, but just when you've fallen a bit short, you realise you can only use this if you've played a supporter card to poison and confuse. Now, the thing to remember here is that if you're playing something like Koga's Trap, you might not be able to play something like Cynthia, so you do need to be careful that you've got some draw cards here. Having said that, we've got Zeb Striker at the moment, we've got a Rangaroo, so it's not like we've got to draw with supporters nowadays. We've got some Pokemon options. Don't forget we're getting the new Pidgeotto, whose ability is literally exactly the same as the old Uxie Level X. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand, one on the bottom of your deck. So it's not the end of the world, and do remember we looked at Lieutenant Surge's strategy just a little bit earlier today, and that card lets you play 2 supporters, that and then 2 more. So yes, you've got to play Koga's Trap, and it's not a draw supporter, but we're really not in a format at the moment where that's the biggest problem ever. It was a lot more of a problem in the past. So okay, one of the options you've got with Venemoth's first attack here is just doing a boatload of damage. But there is another option. You do 110 damage, you've played a Janine, and then during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon from basic Pokemon. You get immunity for an entire turn from basic Pokemon. Now, in terms of the damage here, 110 isn't amazing. If you're hitting for weakness, it's not too bad, because you are getting a straight one-hit KO on something like your Lycanroc, for instance, which is awesome. But then something like Magikarp and Wailord, you're doing 110, they're weak to grass. Even with a Choice Band, you're doing 140 with weakness 280. That's not actually enough to KO Magikarp and Wailord, you will be 20 damage short. That is a slight issue. But really, the reason you'd be doing this is to get immunity from basic Pokemon. And I've mentioned the Tag Team GXs a couple times in this video already. This would be a really good time to mention that all Tag Team GXs are basic, which means this attack will give you absolute blanket immunity to all Tag Team GXs. That, ladies and gentlemen, is wonderful. I did a video just yesterday showing you Tag Team GXs, explaining to you why they've been so good and why they're winning. All 6 of them so far have featured in winning decks over in Japan. So fair to say having immunity from all of them is good. But it's not just them. Blacephalon that I mentioned earlier, the terrible weakness, well, that's a basic, so you're fine against that. Buzzwole seeing a huge amount of play, that's a basic, you're fine against that. Ultra Necrozma's seen a bunch of play and is only going to see more as Tag Team GXs get popular. You've got immunity to that, and so on and so forth. What I really like about this is that you've actually got protection from all basic Pokemon. So something like White Kyurem, which is seeing a bunch of play at the moment, that's a basic, you're going to get immunity. I really like this first attack. Both parts of it are really good. Now, it is for a grass double colourless, and the good news is you can use double colourless energy. The bad news is you need that third energy, and you're going to be really vulnerable to stuff like Enhanced Hammer and Faber. That is an issue. It is a problem, and there's not much that you can do about it, unfortunately. Not a huge fan of the energy cost here. That is going to be an issue, and there's some things you can do about it, but grass doesn't exactly have great options at the moment for accelerating energy. I love this attack. I think both parts of it are really good. You do need to worry about the attack cost. Now, we do need to mention Janine quickly, because this is what you are playing if you're getting the immunity from basics. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Put 2 of them in your hand and shuffle the remaining cards back into your deck. It's a decent draw supporter, and like I've said, we'll give it its own video in its own time later. I can't really go through all of this in great detail in this one video, but suffice to say it's a decent draw supporter, so you don't even have the problem of not having a draw supporter. You get immunity from basics, and you've had Janine as your draw supporter. There's only one other attack here, and it is the GX attack. And that's actually really strange, because I've been having a look. I don't think there are any GXs that we've seen since Sun and Moon came out and GXs came around, I don't think we've had any GXs that only have 2 attack / abilities. I think this is the very first one. Although, obviously, the first attack kind of has 2 different effects, so I think that's where they're going. But still, this is unique. As for the GX attack, 1 colourless energy, 60 damage, shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 10 cards. This is great. We know that this is great because it's basically Drampa's GX attack, except you do 60 damage. And Drampa's GX attack has proven to be great. People have used it a lot. And yeah, don't get me wrong, right? It's not an amazing GX attack. It's a kind of GX attack you never want to use. You would rather never have to use your GX attack to get a new hand of 10 cards. But we all sometimes have to. We all have those games where we have absolutely nothing. And sometimes an attack like this can literally save you from drawing nothing and losing the game. Plus, you're doing 60 damage, so there's a whole bunch of basic evolving Pokemon out there, like Zorua and Routes, for instance, on which you'll get a one-hit KO. And remember that with Professor Round's lecture now letting you search for 60 HP Pokemon, there'll be a bunch of decks that could play 70 HP Pokemon but play 60, so they can search them with Professor Round's lecture, and you can get a KO while getting a new hand of 10 cards. It's a kind of GX attack you don't really want to use, but it can save the game, and if you can get a prize at the same time, that's awesome. I'm just really weirded out by the fact it's only got 2 attacks and no ability. That is strange. If I've missed anything, do let me know, but I just looked at a list of all the GXs and I didn't see it. But I did look at a list of every GX in one go. It's easy to miss stuff. So, it's a good card. My only reservation here is the attack cost for the first attack. 1 colourless energy on the second is great. I love both effects of the first attack. I don't even mind having to play it as specific supporters. I just really worry that we're not going to get the free energy on there. Having said that, it's the same attack cost as Celebi and Venusaur, and that's been doing okay. So maybe it's okay. I'm going to tentatively give it 4 Wassies, knowing that that might be slightly generous, but I just really like the attacks here, and I can. Although it's still weird that it's only got 2 attacks and no ability. Also, beautiful artwork. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, time for you to tell me what you think about Venemoth. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember the most important rule as always. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays for some more Wassie action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.